Hi everyone, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial I'll be demonstrating how to create this pyramid cake. This was a cake that I made for my partner's 30th. The video is also in collaboration with THALIA'S cakes. Don't forget to check out her awesome video where she shows you how to make this gorgeous floral crevice cake. I'll have a link in the description box and a card as well. You'll want a pretty large cake board. The cakes that I've used are one 10-inch cake, 8-inch cake, 6-inch cake, and then a 4-inch cake. So there's a lot of cake involved. And what you want to do is cut each cake in half and then fill in with your chosen frosting. I've gone with the hybrid buttercream that I normally use in my tutorials. And I've flavored it with some butterscotch by Roberts. Really yummy flavoring. Stack each cake on top. I didn't use any dowels or cake boards in between the cake for this. It's just literally cut in half and stack. I've chosen to do the even numbers so that I know it's going to be 10 inches wide, 10 inches tall, and 2 inches between each cake. Now my camera didn't work when I was carving it, so I had to carve a separate cake just to show you guys how I did it. I added a small square at the top of the cake. That's what I used as a reference point for where I should start cutting. And then you literally just cut diagonal, try to meet up with the bottom corner of each cake layer so it's even. Keep trimming as you desire just to make sure that's all a little bit even all the way around. So again, this will be done with your cake that's already been frosted. I just had to demonstrate real quick how to cut it because my camera didn't work. Into one of the corners I am carving out like a C, and this is where I'm going to add all my little geode crystals. So you can make it as deep and misshaped as you like. Pop it into the fridge to set and then add on your ganache. Because I'm going to be covering this in fondant, I used ganache, one of the best mediums to use under fondant. The recipe for how to make ganache is linked in the card and also in the description box below this video. Make sure to add the ganache in that little crevice as well, and once you've covered it, swipe upwards to remove any excess. Also swipe against the corners and then drag it in to create a bit of a sharp corner there. Into the fridge it goes to set for at least 10 minutes. And then add on a thicker layer of ganache. This will be your final coat. This time though, to remove the excess, I'm using a scraper. So that's going to give us really nice, clean, sharp edges. Scrape up against the sides as well, the corners, that when you drag it in, it creates really sharp edging. I just use a spatula to clear up inside that crevice. And for the top as well. Pop it into the fridge for another 20 minutes, and in the meantime start creating your fondant. Because I wanted it to be a sandy color once I airbrushed it, I primed the fondant, so I just turned it yellowy, and that way when I airbrush it, it'll just look a lot more natural compared to if I used white fondant. Cut out the general shape and size of your pyramid. I went a little bit bigger than I had to. I just put an A4 paper against my cake and cut across. And apply the fondant in panels with a little bit of water to stick it on. Paneling is a great way to cover your cakes in fondant if they're an odd looking shape, so not circular. Cut away the excess with a really sharp paring knife. I noticed it also helped when I let the fondant sit on the countertop for 10 minutes before I applied it onto the cake. Just firms up a little bit and makes it a lot easier to cut and creates sharper edges when you're cutting as well. Cut away at the crevice right where the ganache is, so nice and close to the cake. And follow these steps for all the edges. Grab a fondant smoother and just smooth it down and up against the edges as well, just to make it a bit sharper again. Once it's nice and smooth, it's now time to create those textures in the pyramid. I've used a ruler for this, and you can't tell in the video, but I'm just about on my knees bringing myself eye level with the cake to make sure that I can see if the lines that I'm placing in there are straight. I've used a fondant tool to then go over those lines, so that's just more there as a guide, and really reinforce that block brick pyramid shape. I use the side of my rulers to separate the bricks as well, and then going back in again with the fondant tool. Make sure to go over those lines you'd previously gone over, just to make sure that they all remain separate. Sometimes if you go up and down, it kind of misshapes the previous row. Now for the fun part, grab your airbrush and some airbrush colors. I've used yellow and brown mixed together and go over those lines. So I went back and forth with a very medium light spray and you just layer it over the top. You don't go in all at once. Just give yourself a little bit more control so you can really get a nice shading effect happening. Up and down for those bricks as well, and then just a general once over to blend it all together. Into that crevice I'm adding in some white fondant, really thin, maybe about 2 millimeters in thickness. And for the very top of the pyramid, normally those pyramids, they tend to have this cone at the very top. So I've used chocolate for this in a silicone mold, filling it, emptying it out so it's hollow, and then clearing up the sides. Pop it into the fridge till it's hard and then pop it out ready for use. Stick that white piece of fondant into the crevice with a little bit of water and smooth it in there with your hand. Grab that really sharp paring knife that you had again and cut off the excess right where the fondant meets the pyramid looking fondant. I've used buttercream to help stick my geode or my sugar crystals on the inside, so I start at the center, and I actually crushed up some white isomalts for the middle, and then rock candy for the colored section. You can color isomalt and then crush it to create this as well if you can't find the crystal stick lollies at your shops. I've gone a darker color for the very outside, and then grab some edible luster dust in gold, mix it with some rosewater spirits, or you could just buy gold edible paint, and paint along the outside of that geode effect. I brought the paint a little bit higher at the top and lower at the very bottom just for a little bit more interest. To finish it all off, apply some buttercream on your board to stick on your crumbs. These are just crushed up Anzac biscuits, I believe, or you could use Arnott's Nice biscuits for a much paler looking sand effect. Totally up to you. To apply that top piece, I've melted it down a little bit on a hot saucepan and applied it directly onto the cake. You could fill in with a little bit of chocolate where the seam is, and then paint over it in that gold paint that we used before. For a very last touch, I've got the Eye of Horus that you can cut out with a Stanley knife. Apply it to your cake with some tape and then fill in with black frosting. There are going to be those crevices there as well, so your frosting might get a little bit overspread, so try not to go in too heavy. Gently remove your template and you're done. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you do, give it a go, hashtag Rosie Dessert Spot so I can see it as well. If you've enjoyed this cake decorating tutorial, feel free to subscribe for more, and check out THALIA'S cake as well, linked in the description box and the card. She has prepared this gorgeous crevice cake for you guys. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.